right, guys, so we are going to talk about a big debate in the horse world. I think it's the perfect time for that because it is the end of winter, early spring, and that is to blanket or not to blanket. So, we have a couple criterias here at the ranch of whether or not we blanket our horses. So we're going to go over that real quick, and then I will give you a couple facts about horses and why you should or shouldn't blanket them. Our criteria here is if the horse is cold, we give them a blanket, okay? So our horses, like I said, at least 60% of the herd is in their 20s and 30s, and you know, the older a horse gets, the harder it is for them to keep weight on them. Oh, look, there are the wild hooligans. Jet, don't chase them, you're gonna get hurt, baby. Oh, there's Fat Patty, she's kicking it up. Woo, there we go. And they're just running around like hooligans. Perfect example here, showing off how some of our herd has blankets and some doesn't. Excuse my dog, she's very upset. She's on a leash. Okay, so back to the blanketing. Okay, so older horses, just like older people, have a hard time maintaining body heat. So giving them a blanket gives them an extra layer of insulation, keeping them warm. Now, a young, healthy horse doesn't normally need a blanket. I'll tell you why in just a second. But if a horse is shivering, we give them a blanket. All of our blankets are waterproof, so if they get wet, it's not that big of a deal. Another criteria we have is if a horse is thin, we do put a blanket on them. That gives them extra layer to keep them warm because they don't have as much fat as some of the bigger, heavier horses that have a good weight. And then we have some horses that are very sensitive to changes in the weather, and so we do blanket those horses, or we put at least a sheet on them, just something to give them a little extra without giving them a ton of insulation. Okay, so couple facts about horses' anatomy. Is the way their digestive system works is like a fermentation process. They are grazers, so they eat constantly throughout the day. So they're burning a lot of calories, just being alive. So they are grazers, and their digestive system moves relatively slowly. So that fermentation process causes the grasses and hay or whatever you give them to heat up. So they basically have an internal heater from the inside out. So because of that, horses tend to get overheated more easily than you would think. Horses do grow a very thick winter coat. Some horses grow a thicker coat more than others. So we have a couple of horses out here that barely grow any winter coat at all, and we definitely blanket them. But let's see if we can come up to Reno here. My dogs don't scare him away. Hi, buddy. Why are you standing in the mud? Okay, so Reno here has quite a thick coat. Okay, so I run my hands through here. That's all nice, thick fur. And as you can see, the bottom here is a slightly different color than the top. And what happens is when it rains, The hair covers the skin, giving them a nice waterproof layer, and then keeping, you know, their skin nice and dry, keeping them from being wet, and keeps them a lot warmer. It also, when it is cold out, the hair raises up and gives you, or gives the horse, I should say, you know, a nice layer of warmth. So it raises up, trapping in the heat right next to their body, and prevents a lot of that heat from escaping. So horses like Ginger over here, who has a blanket on right now, she is a thinner horse. She is a narrow built quarter horse and doesn't ever get a winter coat. So no matter if we blanket her or not, she's never gotten one. So she gets a winter coat. It's just super thin and not very helpful. So we do blanket her every year when it's cold out. And by cold, I mean like 42 or below. Or if it is raining, okay? So if it's like 60 and raining, she's gonna be shivering, okay? So we don't blanket all of our horses at that temperature, but you know, 42 for our old guys who shiver very easily, and then most of the rest of our horses, the ones that aren't susceptible to, you know, shivering real early on, we blanket when it dips below 30, or if it's raining and, you know, below 60. So some of our horses, when it's cold and wet and rainy, some horses have coats that are less waterproof than others, and so they get cold. So I know my horses, you know, horses like Penny and Maple, Cookie, they tend to shiver pretty early if they're cold and wet. But horses here like Marvel, she has quite the thick mane. She's got a really nice coat on her. She's got, you know, she's got some decent fat around her, that extra layer there. She's super dirty, which, you know, extra layer of mud there. Bye, Marvel. But yeah, Marvel doesn't get cold very easily, so we almost never blanket her. We only blanket her if we have like a really good dip, like it's in, you know, the teens type of dip, which only happens maybe once a year here in Texas. So, yeah, blanketing is not for everyone, not for every horse. It's best if you can go without a blanket, because that coat has a natural job of keeping the horse's skin waterproof and being able to raise up to trap in heat. Now, not every horse can go without a blanket. Like I said, Ginger, we have to blanket her because she's a hard keeper. She's in her early 20s, and she does get cold very easily because she doesn't have that winter coat. Horses like Flash here could probably go without a blanket, but he has colicked quite a few times pretty good in the last year, and he is an older gentleman. He's in his 30s, so we want to just take that extra precaution giving him a blanket. So yeah, I hope that answers some questions. It is, you know, the hottest debate in the horse world all the time, every winter. People, you know, blanketing your horses, don't blanket your horses, on and all that jazz. Also, people get really worried because we don't have a barn out here. But our horses, honestly, they prefer wide open spaces. Even when it is raining, they don't go in the shelter. They like to stand out in the middle of the rain. So, I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more about blanketing specifically, just let me know. Hope you enjoyed it.